Hey, welcome back to Buck Junkies. My name is Mark. We got Jamie here. Mikey and Malcom have slipped out on us today, so Malcom is actually in Texas on a deer hunt. And
yeah, that's twice he done cheated out.
Yeah, he done left us out. We're in here doing podcasts, and he's out there having a good time. Mikey's son had a last-minute, I guess, skeet shoot getting ready for state championship.
State champion, and I believe they're in Sardis.
Yeah, Sardis getting ready to shoot skeets. He's very talented when it comes to shooting traps, stuff like that. So he had to get him down there. But we got two guys to fill him in here. We got Rob Hoff and Chris Gerner, right? Make sure I got that right again. But both these guys are with the Corps Engineers, and I know y'all have heard me and Jamie talk about this before, but kind of our main topic today is we actually got the chance. Well, this is my first year. Jamie's helped several years, but helped with the physically challenged hunt down here at Arkabutla. And we'll get into details on it here shortly, but that is one of the things that I'm hooked. I mean, I want to go back every year. There's no doubt. And it's one of the things that, I think me being able to help with that, I got just as much benefit and had just as much pleasure as some of the hunters did. So we'll definitely get into that. But first thing, man, Jamie, who's on the board?
Jamie's not.
Jamie won't pull the trigger.
Deerless, doeless, everything. So Malcom kind of stood us up last week. We had a in-house baking contest at work. Everybody's supposed to be here. Last minute, Malcom calls, and needless to say, he did not.
He burnt his cake, apparently.
He didn't enter the cooking contest, but he did get on the board with a pretty good deer.
And see, I knew this was going to happen because Malcom is not he's going to get mad at me for saying this, but Malcom is not a individual that likes being by himself. Rob, you may have picked up on this, but he's not a lonely guy. Like, he's one that,
he wants everybody at deer camp.
If he's at deer camp, he wants everybody there. And I told Jamie that morning, I said, because Malcom texted me about 9 o'clock. He said, man, I let a good 9-point get across the field. I told Jamie then, I was like, Malcom's shooting something today. I was like, hey, I think he will sacrifice one of our bucks we don't want to kill just to get somebody down there to help him to stay the night, So sure enough, about 4:30, I got that text, big buck down, and he sent me a picture, and it was a darn good 10-point. We've had him on camera, probably one of our bigger body deers that we've had on camera. I think he had the nickname Fat Albert because on camera he looks like his legs about 6 inches long. Yeah. I think he ended up weighing right at 200 pounds. He was a 18,
which is hill country deer.
That's hill country deer. I mean, that's good deer for us. And he was about 18-inch spread, 10-point, pretty rack, and he had a good hunt. Come out chasing does, and I think he was actually shooting his son's 308, and he put the whammy on him, and there was no tracking involved. We just loaded him up, so that's a good hunt if you ask me.
One thing
while we was baking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who won the dessert contest?
You looking at him right here.
Yeah. That's the only reason why Mark brought the whole topic of the baking contest up was because he won.
Everybody Rob knows this and a lot of our listeners knows, we're all barbecue background. So we're pretty competitive at heart. And we got some bakers up here at the office that are very, very talented. Way more talented than we are. But the difference in us is we've been competing for going on 10, 12 years, and
yeah, right.
It's a difference in being a good cook and being a competitor. A lot of times a competitor got to play a little dirty. So you got to know your crowd, who you're feeding. So you got to play don't break the rules, but just make sure you touch them.
Get the edge.
But no, we had it was a good little contest. We had a good time. I was definitely very excited that I won because there were several that I didn't think I was going to beat, but we slipped on in there.
All right.
But
should have brought some for us to try today anyway.
Man, I cooked some more of them. I done off subject we're going to talk about anyway. I done a cheesecake in a mason jar. So individually cheesecakes in quarter-pint mason jars, and then you can top them however you want. Man, they're good.
That's pretty good. I don't know if it's first place good or not. But it's
first enough.
If it's good enough, somebody probably took a bite out of the jar too.
May have. But I got something I actually wanted to bring up with y'all, and this was kind of following on who's on the board. We got done hunting Saturday, and we were going to move some of our cameras around. And we talked about this before, is like we set out the cameras for season and kind of get an inventory, but, there's no way you can have enough cameras to cover all your property. And we always, about every 3 to 4 weeks, we try to move them, get them on a new ground just to see inventory, because you never know. And I know right now with rut going on, you take that for a grain of salt, because most of them deer, they might be staying there, but a lot of them are going to be pasture-throughs. And I didn't know if y'all had any tips, if y'all, deal with cameras much, or kind of what y'all's aspect on that, or what y'all's point of view is that as far as helping get inventory on your property.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, this time of year, the bucks are going to be wherever the hot does are, so it's hard to keep tabs on them. We've got cameras set up all over core property, just kind of keeping tabs on some of the bucks for this physically challenged hunt, and we've got over 1,000 acres there, and the Coldwater River runs through the middle of where we've got some of these cameras. We've got bucks, a mile and a half away within 24 hours. So they're covering some ground right now. So just because you got them on camera, at one point doesn't mean they're going to be.
They ain't going to be there.
They're not going to be in the area necessarily.
And then you always hear, like, somebody kills a big deer on a property. Well, that's the first time we've seen it. We don't have any pictures of it, and it just might have been a neighbor's buck that come across their property or whatever, but yeah, they definitely traveling a lot now.
Yeah. I got a prime example of that, and me and Rob were talking earlier. I got a good friend in Indiana that does a ton of hunting up there in the greatest cornfield food plot you ever could be in, and he had a good friend of his killed a very, very good deer last year. He killed it Saturday morning. That deer was on camera Friday night, 7 miles from where he was at, and I mean that's a stretch. Boy, I mean, again, up there is completely different here. They might run 2 miles across the same cornfield and never touch trees,
Yeah.
So, but no, they definitely move, and man, our camera action's pretty much through the break zone.
Yeah, it's slowed down a lot.
And a lot of it's our weather right now. It's 70 degrees today.
Yeah, we went from 2 weeks ago 30, 20-something degrees, and now it's
going to be
thunderstorming, and 80.
Well, Chris, I guess before we get into our big topic, what all hunting do you do?
Mainly, if I was going to just put it in one spot, I'd say I like duck hunting probably a little bit. Any kind of bird hunting, wing shooting, I really get in for that. Do a little rabbit hunting, deer hunting. I touch in a little bit, a couple times a season, but I'm not. I wouldn't call myself a big deer hunter at all.
Rabbit hunting's my thing. I love me some rabbit hunting.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I grew up. I walked a lot of miles as a kid, going up and down ditch banks and creeks, and if we had a couple of dogs, it was fine. But a lot of times growing up, I was the
He was
dog.
kicking them out. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we've had rabbit dogs for over 20 years now.
Yeah, as a kid, Daddy did, and then kind of got out of it, got more into deer hunting and coon hunting, and now he's, I guess, in probably 99 or 2000.
Yeah,
we got
I think it
more
was
dogs.
2000. So yeah, we've had some
very,
good ones.
very good dogs. Very good dogs.
There's several I wish we still had.
You remember the good ones.
Yep.
We had one that I guess my dad or
No, it's Thomas.
bought the dog. My brother-in-law bought it from. We got all our dogs from Jim Davis out of Olive Branch. I don't know if you ever heard of him or know of him, but he was a pretty well-known rabbit hunter in our area, and he had dogs that were most of the times out of any price point that I would want to pay for a rabbit dog. I want to say Jamie picked one up from the airport.
Yeah, he had one flown in from a breeder he bought, and it's pretty extravagant. Hope his wife ain't listening. Don't know about his wife might get in trouble on that.
But so we would buy dogs that wouldn't run with his pack, and this dog here, her name was Sassy, and he's
too fast.
Great dog, but she's too fast for mine. And she was like, if she could get her eyes on that rabbit, she was finna catch it. You didn't have to shoot it. I mean, she was catching it, and she was one of the best jump dogs I've ever seen in my life. And
we actually hunted with the guy, and he asked my dad, he's like, I want to buy that dog. My dad's like, no, she's not for sale. Kept on. That night, guy called Dad. He's like, I'll bring you $3,500 cash money for that dog. My dad's like, nope.
Ain't getting it.
Can't do it. He said, you don't have enough money. You don't have enough money to buy her.
Yeah.
But to tell you how close that, and this kind of goes into being friends with your dogs, I guess, but we were hunting in Alligator, Mississippi. And I don't know if you've ever been down there, seen it, but it's mainly CRP, and that's it, So the place we hunted the rabbits were about like ants. You step out of the truck, you stopped right there because you was going to jump a rabbit if you moved. So, I mean, we killed, it was like 37 rabbits that one day. I mean,
that's a big day.
It was a good day. And that dog ran to where she finally just laid down under a cypress tree and just laid there. And we thought she was bad sick. And Daddy picked her up and put him in his hunt vest. We brought her out, got home. I think she got a little penicillin shot. And
good to go next day.
She was good to go next day, But
ran the dog out.
Yep, that's it. But no, we something else we discovered this weekend, talking about on the board, is we found one of our camera bucks in not so good shape.
Yeah.
We found a skull, basically what it was, and it was a fairly fresh, I'm assuming youth hunt weekend, 1st of November kill. somewhere around in there. Maybe open a weekend, depending on how quick the coyotes got to it. But we found one of our deer that was a very, very good. I wanted to see in person because it was one of the ones on camera you really couldn't judge. You didn't know if it was going to be one this year, if it needed another year. And I wish it would have made it another
one more year. It'd been a real good deer.
But it was a beautiful rack, and we're trying to do our best to get it because I'm thinking it's maybe one of our neighbor's sons or somebody like that youth hunt shot the deer and they lost it. And at least what we can do is get the antlers back to the kid and let him finish his hunt kind of deal. But we're still hunting for that owner of that one because, I mean, the deer was healthy. I don't think there was nothing else.
Yeah, we had pictures in August, maybe September of it, last picture.
But on to the main topic, the physically challenged hunt at Arkabutla. And Rob, I'm going to let you take this off the gate and just kind of tell us about it, tell it how it started, how many years it's been going on, just all the background on it, basically.
All right. Yeah, so the physically challenged hunt at Arkabutla Lake started in 1990. So this is the 32nd year that it's gone on. And the hunt takes place in, it's a little over 1,000 acres below the dam at Arkabutla Lake. And that area is restricted to hunting. So nobody gets to hunt it except these guys for this hunt, these physically challenged individuals. And so we've got 35 stands scattered throughout that. It's about 1,200 acres. We got 35 stands scattered throughout there. And we take the guys out to the stands, and when I say we, the rangers at Arkabutla Lake as well as volunteers that come out and help. And we take the guys out to the stands. We get them set up. We retrieve the deer for them, clean and process the deer for them. So that's kind of a broad overview of it, but I mean we can get into a lot more specifics than that. So
no, it's definitely a big operation. I had no idea until I stepped foot out of the truck Friday, as far as like you say, the amount of volunteers and what would your head count be as far as people outside of the hunters that makes this happen?
So this is my third year actually being in charge of the physically challenged hunt. I've helped with it now for 13 years, but this is my third year being in charge of it. And I can tell you there's a whole lot more that goes into it than just showing up on Friday morning and getting guys out into the woods. It's a year-round process. I mean,
it's a big ordeal. Just you just don't go put a guy in a stand. I mean, certain stands fit a certain hunter better than another stand will, and I mean that's something y'all have to pre-plan and get lined up, way ahead of time.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And this hunt caters to several different disabilities. We've got everything from amputees, quadriplegics, paraplegics, muscular dystrophy, different diseases that affect people who can't just go hunting on their own.
Yeah.
So they need assistance getting out into the woods. They need special accommodations, things like that.
And this may be the one time they get to hunt the entire year. This may be the only hunt that they get to sit in a stand and enjoy what we take for granted, Right,
yeah, exactly. And a lot of them, that is the case, just because they don't have the means, they don't have the land, they don't have the ability to get out into the woods on their own. They don't have the equipment that they need to hunt successfully, safely, things like that. And Jamie's right. We have different stands set up based on the disability levels. Some of the guys stay in the power chairs and they can, through hand controls, drive their own vehicle. And we've got some stands where they can drive their own personal vehicle close to the stand, unload their power chair, and we can help them get into the stands right there close to their vehicle. Some of the other guys, we load them up on side-by-sides, and we go deep into the woods, and we can, unload them into their chairs and into the, out there in the woods. Some of them, we've built stands that are big enough you can drive four-wheelers and side-by-sides into the stand. We can close the doors behind them. They can hunt from their four-wheeler or side-by-side.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And it really does vary. You guys got a little taste of that, having been there and worked it. You do kind of have to plan it. Rob has to do some coordination per person sometimes, almost, just depending on what the disability is. But it is amazing to watch the effort that those guys put in and the amount of service that they provide for each hunter, each person that comes.
Yeah, I mean, even though Mississippi's got some of the best government land there is, the average guy still can't get a wheelchair or a track chair out to that government land to hunt. So a lot of them are very limited on what they can do as far as where to hunt.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And I think too, like, it's not much info out there about this for people, you know. Like, I'm sure like somebody listening right now is going to be one of the ones like, man, I've never heard of that, but that's something, you know, maybe them or somebody they have want to get involved or be a participant, or when I pulled up, I was floored. Like, I know I said that earlier, but I mean, it was one of them things you pull up and.
Oh, Mark thought it was in a campground, all the campers and trailers and people.
It was an awesome sight. And to see how many people come out to help, and, you know, I've seen guys Friday that come up with a 120-pound doe, and you just thought they shot a boone and pocket. And was tickled to death. And I mean, that got all over me. I'm soft-hearted anyway, but that got all over me. I ain't gonna lie. But it's a very, very neat operation, and that's something that one reason we want to have y'all on is to kind of just get some awareness out there on it, you know, because I know there's people that haven't heard about it, and this could be an opportunity for anybody.
Right.
So,
and I would say Rob has just put an emphasis on trying to get a wide span of folks to come and try to participate, not just to volunteer, but folks that are hunters. And Rob, you can kind of speak on this if y'all want to, just where folks are coming from to be a part of this hunt.
Yeah, so this year we had guys come from Texarkana, South Louisiana, over in Arkansas, up in Tennessee. So we got a lot of local states, but this coming weekend, so it's split up over 2 different weekends. But this coming weekend, we've actually got 2 guys flying in from California to hunt. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they've been coming for probably 6 or 7 years now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So outside of the character Mike, who is the second long-term hunter?
Just probably a guy. He's from down around Biloxi, I think, past Christian. He has been coming for 27, 28 years. Mike Riley, who's the president of the Arkabutla Physically Challenged Hunt Association, has made it to all 32. Yep. So
that's awesome.
And it varies from what this year was probably 15 was the youngest hunter to 70 plus being the oldest probably.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. You know, we try to get as many of the young folks as we can, but yeah, all ages, all different disability types. It's a broad spectrum, and we try to accommodate everybody. And I think we've done a pretty good job. We've got some fantastic volunteers. Everybody's got a positive attitude. Everybody, you know, really is there for the right reasons and helps these guys and girls out. So.
And you said attitudes. I mean, it was pretty cold one morning. It rained one morning. I never heard one single hunter complain about, and heck, I'll complain because it's too cold or too wet. And them guys were, I mean, it wasn't nearby as easy for them to go get in the stand as it is me. And I never heard anybody complain about anything.
Right. No, everybody's just thrilled to be there, thrilled to get the chance to hunt. And yeah, it never fails. We've been rained on every year. I don't think we've had a hunt that it hasn't rained. And Mississippi weather, you know, it was started out cold the first morning, Friday morning. Got up in the 60s by Saturday. Of course, it rained on us, and then it dropped back down cold again. So you never know what to expect. But those guys. They're going out. Doesn't matter the conditions. So
what I got the biggest kick out of was it was Friday night. Most of them had all come back from the evening hunt, you know, and deer were killed Friday. Friday evening was a pretty good hunt. I think.
Yeah, I think we got 12 or 13
Friday,
and it was just like from an outsider, it was just like I would be too, you know, like all the guys that had killed something and like they all huddled around and boy, they were talking their hunts up, boy, and I was getting tickled and they had some stories now. It was good, you know, and that's, to me, that brought me back to what deer camp used to feel like to me. Like I had that exact same feeling then, you know, it was like what I remember deer camp being when I was a kid. And that was, and we keep talking about this. I'm telling you, me and Jamie will vouch for it, is that we got more out of this hunt than they did.
Hands down, I did.
I know I did. And I mean, all I done is show up and cook, you know, that's about as far as my helping went this year, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. And that was another thing is, you know, maybe you can touch base on this too, as far as the volunteer stuff. It's not just physically volunteering your time. I mean, people donated side-by-sides. There was a lot of the stuff that, you know, as far as food, because I mean, y'all feed them 2 or 3 meals a day.
Three meals a day plus daytime snacks.
Yeah, unlimited snacks.
And they eat,
they eat very well. Everybody eats very well. If you go home hungry, it's your own fault.
I was worried because I fixed enough jambalaya that should have done about 120 people. And Jamie's like, "You sure this gonna be enough?" I was like, "Man, this is gonna be plenty." And about 30 minutes into serving, I walked in and looked, and I was like, "Holy smokes!"
Yeah,
like,
plenty.
These folks have done put away some groceries.
Yeah, plenty didn't look like so much then.
But hey, it worked out. As far as I know, y'all had leftovers next day, didn't you?
Yeah,
it was very little. Yeah,
yeah. But like you said, and I just want to touch on this point, is it is a lot like deer camp. I mean, we've got a big fire pit there. All the guys huddle around the fire pits at night, and you want to talk about tall tales. The deer that they saw that they didn't bring, you know, get a shot at or bring into camp, they grew, you know, and every time they tell the story, it gets a little bit bigger. So
no, it was, and now that's not a fire pit. No, I don't know what you call that. That is not a fire pit.
That's
to give you an idea. Do you know the dimensions on it? I would. Let me see if I can guess. I would say 6 by 16, 6 by 12.
That's it. No, 6 by 16.
It is huge.
It is huge.
It's like a flat griddle for firewood.
Yeah.
And it does not matter, rain or shine, snow or sleet, that fire does not go out. It stays burning the whole time.
That's the number one rule at camp. The fire can't go out. And when it, and like I said, it always rains. So when it rains, they pile the wood on and they keep that fire going through.
Y'all had more wood stacked up by that fire pit than I burned my entire winter at my house in my fireplace.
You'd be surprised how little is left right now after the first weekend, and we still got one weekend to go. So,
but no, it's definitely something that I'm thankful for, and I think, you know, I tried to do some research before we got in here today just to kind of see what was out there, and there isn't. You know, it's kind of it's a desert when it comes to information for it.
It's so much it's commercialized on some sites, but this is not what this is. This is not a money-making organization by no means. But yeah, it's very, very limited on. You see a little bit of like Wounded Warrior stuff, but other than that, it's
and a lot. I mean, there's plenty of stuff out there as far as like for the physically challenged, Wounded Warrior, a lot of that. But like we were looking at, most of those are private property, maybe like a private ranch is doing something, or you know, somewhat along those lines. But this is strictly. I mean, do you know what was the first year they done it? What was the goal behind it?
Yeah, so like I said, this is about 1,200 acres that nobody gets to hunt, and the deer population was out of control in this area because nobody was hunting it, and cars were hitting deer weekly. I mean, the deer population was out of control. They were going to get the state biologist to come in and just shoot the deer, a certain number of deer, and let them lay. And I'll have to give it to Dean Hunter, who was a ranger back then. He's the one who came up with the idea to do the physically challenged deer hunt. And that it's a win-win for everybody because these guys manage the deer herd. They get to keep the meat, and they get to hunt where they may not otherwise get to hunt. So it's a win-win for everybody. We're keeping the deer population in check. These guys get to hunt. The meat's not wasted. So it's
so it turns it from not only a good cause, but it turns into a conservation side of things too.
Exactly.
That's all right. So I'm gonna ask a question. I know everybody's listening. What do you got on camera now?
Oh, we've got some good bucks on camera, and that's what I tell the guys. You know, in the morning meetings, you know, when we do our safety meeting, so we do have standards that we have to go by. So we follow the Delta regulations as far as 12-inch inside spread, 15-inch main beams. But I tell the guys, look, if you see one that's close, let him walk, because I guarantee you there's some out there you don't have to question. When you see them, you know they're going to be shooters. So
Well, the young man from he was from Texas that killed a bigger deer.
Louisiana,
St. Charles, Louisiana, and that's what he said. He said when it come out, I didn't have to second guess or question. I knew it was a shooter.
Which that one, what it weigh? It was 200, wasn't it?
201.
201. Yep.
That was a very big deer, a real good deer.
Well, that one that was the bigger buck Friday night. What was the weight on it? Did you ever catch
I think it was 180 something.
180, because it looked its neck. I mean, it was no doubt its rut for him. You know, his neck was huge.
Right.
So that was 201, the biggest buck, and like 119, maybe the biggest doe. Maybe
121.
With that.
Yep, 121.
So once kind of go through this, and I noticed this as well. Go through the process as far as what y'all do. Back to the conservation side of things. Once the deer's harvested, y'all just don't dress it out and get the meat. Like, y'all are pulling jawbones. What all do y'all do there as far as y'all's, you know, to keep counting for everything for y'all?
Right. Yeah. So we keep records of every deer killed, you know, harvested. We get the jawbones out. We get the lymph nodes out. We get those tested for CWD. So far, none have come back positive, but we do test all the deer harvested for CWD. We keep up with the jawbones, get the biologist to age them, so we kind of have an idea of what we're taking out of the herd, what's left in the herd based on camera surveys and things like that. So we're keeping tabs on the population, and what our goal is changes every year. You know, we get with the state and our Corps of Engineers biologists. We work together to kind of come up with numbers, deer, you know, like a target number of deer that we need to harvest during this hunt. So,
Go ahead. So, like, just from meeting all y'all Corps guys, and I've learned the conservation, the food plots, the environment for us. I've learned so much in the past year. It's crazy. I mean,
it's just like, I guarantee you, when we first started hunting down there, the place we have now, we did not have 200-pound bucks. No way. I mean, the does up there were pitiful, and I think we've killed 2 does. One was 116 and one was 110, and the ones we killed last year were in the 80s. You know, I mean, the bodies of does have drastically changed for what we've learned from y'all. And, you know, Chris, I don't know if you follow or keep up, but like, we've been doing more and more of, I guess, winter, fall. We do food plots year round. Yeah. So, you know, we're doing the vetch in the summer and, you know, just trying to keep protein out there. And I mean, we've learned all that from y'all, hands down. And it's, people think it don't work and you're wasting your money doing a summer plot. You've lost your mind, because it is unreal what it can do.
Yeah, change the bodies completely.
Oh, yes. And I mean, we're holding deer. Like, you know, the property we have, I guess it's total of like 325, 340-ish, somewhere around in there. I had to pull it up and look, but we were so overpopulated, it wasn't even funny. I mean, there was times last year that, you know, we'd be sitting in the field and I'd have 20 does in the field in front of me, and Malcom was less than a quarter mile away, and he'd have another 20 on his field at the same exact time. And that's when we started, you know, reaching out to biologists and getting more informed and realizing, man, you got to get some miles off these food plots for everything else to, you know, prosper and do great, you know. And we probably got frowned on by a lot of people, but we killed 30-something does off those properties last year. And this year you can't even tell it. I mean, we're back to, I don't know that you can ever get ahead unless you just, I mean, I just don't know, you know.
Well, and that's one thing I'll say about Rob and them, you know, just the records that they're keeping on these deer, the camera surveys that they're doing, they have a pretty good idea of what's going on out there.
Right.
They've studied that herd for several years now, you know, decades even. And so they know what they've got. And I think that's what a lot of hunters, like you guys say, you know, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Well, in your mind, you want to say, I got 40 deer on 200 acres. That's a good thing, but not necessarily. You know, I mean, it's got repercussions that it can be unhealthy and, you know, both ways.
Well, I guess Kevin was the first one that come down there, right? And then looked at it the first
probably.
time. And as soon as we got on side by side, and we wasn't, no joke, was not 100 yards from our camp house, he was like, y'all got too many deer. And he's like, do you see the browse line? And I was like, oh. Like,
what are you talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about. Then once he pointed out, like, I can see it. I know that.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, you can't, this property can't support that. Like, you got to do something to get these deer are eating stuff they're not supposed to eat, you know?
Yeah, Kevin came down there. What's the ball? John Grisham?
Grucci.
Yeah, he come. Yeah, he's
The walking encyclopedia.
yeah, he's a very smart man too.
Yeah.
But no, that's, you know, kind of going back to this hunt thing. And, you know, you're doing it for a great cause, but you're doing it for a management purpose too. And
Right. So it's a win-win.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get the miles off the property.
Yep.
One way or another. It's either that or, you know, people's like, oh, hunting's terrible. You know, y'all are shooting these deer. Yeah. I'd rather be shot than ate by a coyote or die from starvation. I mean, there's a lot of other ways that deer can go out of this earth, and I'd much rather get quick misery and actually be used as a purpose and not laying in the field rotting.
Right.
Which I would say the majority of deer come in was all. It was a couple of smaller, younger deer that came in. Majority of deer were older deer.
Yeah, they were mostly mature deer. Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing too.
There were several. I think I seen one doe that was a smaller frame doe, but I mean, it was a doe, and I'm guilty of that too. If she comes out by herself, it's hard to judge the body size of a doe.
Right.
But I would say, I mean, how many acres of actually planted food plot do y'all have for that 1,200 acres?
Within that 1,200 acres, we probably got close to 25 acres planted. So we've got a lot of micro plots in the woods that, you know, we took a forestry mulcher in there and cleared some spots in front of the stands, but we've got some bigger agricultural fields, soybean fields, and we've also got food plots out there in them. We've got some areas that are just next to the roadway that were open fields that we planted in food plots. And like you were talking about, we've got year-round food plots, so we alternate different as far as winter plots, we've got about 25 acres right now, but we've also got summer plots that we've got out there that we rotate and things like that. So there's protein source year-round.
So what's y'all's rotation look like as far as what actual crop what do y'all see the biggest results at when as far as coming planting?
Well, I mean, obviously in the wintertime, that's, you know, when the acorns, which we had a bumper crop of acorns this year. I don't know if y'all have had the same thing, but I noticed we had a bumper crop of acorns this year. But also we our main mix is just buck oats, wheat, winter peas, and
The winter peas made it?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we tried a field of nothing but winter peas, but they didn't make it. I mean, the deer wiped
Soon
them
as they
out
come
soon
up
as
and-
they came up. Yeah. So we have to kind of mix them in with the wheat and the oats, and they kind of get a chance to come up at least a little bit before the deer nip them off. But it's, yeah. That's our main mix, and that seems to be the favored mix. We've done experimental plots with different types of cereal grains and things like that, but that seems to be the go-to. It's just a good mixture.
I guess right now we got a little bit of everything. We got a huge patch of turnips and radishes, and early November there was not a time of day you wouldn't go out there and deer were not there. I mean, they were wearing it out, and then they slowed down a bunch. But now I don't know if they're transitioning. You know, now that they done ate all the acorns and everything's out of the woods and all your normal foliage is gone, and they're coming back. But either they're eating it and it's going to be a really good winter, or we're finna have some stinking turnips on the ground, one of the two, because it is a bunch out there. So as far as your summer plots go, I know we talked about vetch. That's
my go-to now.
Yeah, that's I don't know if I don't like it better than clover and everything else. I was blown away. And that was one of the things. And I guess
John turned us on to that.
Yeah, the vetch.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be the first time we've ever done a summer plot and actually done the cages and really kept an eye on how much they were actually browsing.
Mm-hmm.
They ought to be 700-pound deer out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how they eat that much. And I really don't, because, I mean, the vetch field was probably,
It wasn't maybe 2 acres, probably.
2.5, maybe 3 acres tops, but it was 100% vetch. We had 2 cages out there, and I got a video, and we shared it. Is the vetch in the cage it had already bloomed, and it had the whatever the little bean seed pod they put out, and it was probably 3.5 foot tall, and the rest of the field might have been 3 inches tall.
Yeah.
I mean, completely looked like you mowed it with the bush hog. I mean, pretty as you could please.
Yeah, they were keeping it eaten down.
And if we didn't have the cage, it was like, man, this crap ain't doing nothing.
Yeah.
You know, you would never know it.
Right.
And
yeah.
so what y'all, I guess back to it, what would be y'all summer mix y'all see the best out of there?
You know, we do clay peas, and the deer love them. Deer love those clay peas. It's like that vetch. They don't really give it a chance to grow and mature. They just keep it mowed down. It looks like carpet. We do corn. We leave standing corn, things like that. We've got a few. We've got fruit trees out there too, and so the deer love those fruit trees. And we've got crab apples and pears and things like that. The deer just love those. So
Natural stuff.
yeah.
Well, I want to take a minute to thank y'all. This is my first year to help out down there, and I was blown away, and it's definitely I owe y'all because it was something that I've learned a lot, and it hit home. And anybody listening, I recommend reaching out, man. If it's somewhere within driving distance, go see it, go do it, go be a part of it, because it's something that's you'll appreciate it. It'll change your point of view on a lot of things, and you'll definitely realize that us getting up in the morning, fixing our coffee, going to sit in a deer stand, we take that for granted every day. And it was definitely, I thank y'all for having it here this close to us, where me and Jamie can be a part of it. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else to say to that. I mean, it's pretty. It was.
I told Rob earlier, it's been 2 or 3 times this week I've woke up and that's like stuff on my mind that I want to. I'm going to get more involved if y'all let me. I'm more involved, but no, it's definitely worth looking into, and it's not like it's so many stuff out now that's money making schemes, and this is definitely not one of them. This is all volunteer stuff. Nobody's getting a paycheck for it. It's all to help people out that that get to do stuff that we like to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the main draw for the volunteers is because, like you said, we take it for granted. And then just about everybody knows somebody who could benefit from this.
Right.
And that's the thing, like you said, just getting the word out, making people aware that there is opportunities to help. Not only can they volunteer to help, but if you know somebody who would like to participate and get them, even if they're physically disabled and never really been into hunting before, get them out there, let them try it. Just the camaraderie, but that you get at camp.
The fellowship would be as much as anything, hands down.
And you guys probably saw it. There a lot of those guys and girls that have hunted from year after year. It's just like a family reunion.
Oh yeah.
Well, a lot of the senior hunters out there that's been a part of it. I mean, they help as much as volunteers. They get just as excited if one of the new hunters come in's got a little buck or whatever. I mean, they're the first ones to them. Man, congratulations, and it's moving. I don't know. You can't explain stuff like this. We've done other things that are something similar to that, and it's always been it tugs on your heart, and it's just one of them things. I'm all for it, man. I'm pumped up, ready to go.
Well, I can promise if you don't want to hunt, you can sit around at campfire and you can be real knowledgeable by the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
Well, on a different note, Chris, I know you said you was into duck hunting. Have you been this year?
I did. I haven't gotten to go a whole lot, but I did go opening morning. Had a pretty good opening morning.
Are they in Mississippi yet?
They are. There are a few. We killed some local ducks. Had a few come in, and but it was a good hunt. I think we had a group of about 9 folks hunted out of a couple blinds and did pretty good. Nobody got a limit or anything like that, but it was good. We were hunting lakes over in East Mississippi. So
as far as these small places, nobody has water unless you're pumping. Unless you're pumping it.
It just wasn't like a Delta hole. This was just old sloughs that we've had.
We got 4 fields right now that we flooded. Because we were trying to play smart. It was a drought, man. There was no water on the Mississippi.
We're getting ahead of the game, yeah.
And we haven't hunted any of them yet. We put cellular cameras out there on the front of the blind so we can check the fields without checking the fields. and we've seen more deer than ducks on the duck hole.
Yeah, man, we got pictures of bucks running does across the duck hole. We got does and yearlings out feeding on some rice out in the duck hole.
And I got tickled because the farmer we have these fields with, I asked him, I said, y'all not deer hunt down here by these, these rice and bean fields? He's like, you can't kill a deer down here. I said, what do you mean? I was like, it's like the trails look like highways on these ditches. I'm like, man. He said, no. He said, they'll lay in a ditch bank, and he said, you'll never see that buck until nighttime. Well,
the camera's literally what?
It's
it's
zip tied to a piece of cane on the front of the blind.
So I mean, they're like walking. Yeah. You could reach out the blind and
you could
pet
touch
them on the back.
Deer. Yeah, and I sent him a picture. A pretty good 8 or 9 point was chasing a doe, and I mean, he was literally closer than from me to you to the camera. And I sent it to him. He was like, really? 2 days later, he had cameras down there.
Oh wow!
Yeah, his son's deer hunting down there now. So, but no, we hadn't seen any ducks really. Good friend of mine, and you may key in on this too, and I haven't done much research on it, but the geese with the flu stuff now. Have you heard anything?
No, I'm not on that.
So
I don't know how true all of it is.
No, Hunter and them had them like landing the decoys with them, and they say they act just like a deer with chronic wasting. Said you can walk up to it, they don't fly, they don't care that you're even there, and they're just out of it. And he said when they do fly, they don't fly far. And they had 3 on their field that they seen, and I was reading a couple places over in Arkansas. It's kind of little information coming up, but I had no idea until I talked to him, and I don't know if it's some kind of like goose bird flu or what they're calling it, but it was interesting to say the least. And I've been kind of asking around, and I talked to Mike and them the other day, and they hadn't heard anything on it or seen anything. Hunter was the first guy that I've heard say anything about it, but
it'll be something to look out for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of them things that I guess again, it's kind of like the CWD. You get Tunica's overpopulated with geese when it comes this time of year. I mean, I've never seen this many snows and blues when it comes to duck season.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time. They get something to back the numbers back,
So, backing numbers back. What about the Beetles, Rob?
The Beetles are...
they still employed at your house?
They are employed.
We limited employees now, right?
We had a little setback while I was deployed to Florida. Had some spiders somehow or another get in the beetle containers and wiped out a couple of my colonies. So
really,
yeah.
So he, last year he had A, B, and C team. He's down to
A,
F to F team.
Yeah, I got a C- team running.
Varsity.
Yeah.
So I never would have even thought about that. I would think a beetle that eats all that crap would handle a spider on its own.
Right. You would think a flesh-eating beetle could
handle a spider,
but no. The only thing I can figure is I put new bedding in the beetle containers right before I left for Florida, and I'm thinking they must have had spider eggs in the bedding material, and they just hatched out in there because I've had the beetles now for 5 years, and I've never had any issues. And it's just coincidental.
So how do you correct that?
I'm not sure.
You can't kill the spider because you're going to kill the beetle.
Right.
What do you do?
Right. So I'm trying to. There's a few survivors in there still in 2 of my containers. So I think I'm going to try to, as soon as the hunt's over and I have a little time, I think I'm going to try to lure those last few beetles out separately and just start all over.
Start over.
Yeah.
What a scary place to be a beetle.
They ain't lying.
Yeah.
They thought they had the perfect life eating Frank's Ballpark hot dogs all the time and deer meat, and now they got a freaking giant spider coming in there on them. So we usually try to wrap up the podcast talking about wild game recipes, and I'm going to pitch it both of y'all. And tell me something good we need to be cooking at the Buck Junkies camp. Oh, it's got to be better than that now.
It won't. I'm more of an eater than a cooker. I'd have to defer a little bit on this.
Well, what we need to eat then?
Yeah.
Look, anytime, especially if it's deer meat or duck meat or whatever you're cooking is what I'm eating.
Well, our game warden Mike Powell said something that he tried, and it kind of turned a couple people off, but I tried, and it was bobcat.
No,
Really?
I am not eating nothing that eats other meat. I'm not doing it. We was at Memphis in May, and
well, that might have been.
I don't know.
Choice of meat
so
you ate.
Memphis in May barbecue cooking contest, you have an exotic category, and it's no telling what might be turned in. Like, well, the first year we done it, I was under the impression they ask you what it is, when you turn it in, which they don't. But So I was cooking mallard. You know, I had some
Yeah.
ducks from the season. I was like, man, I'm finna hit. I was like, well, I don't know if that's exotic enough. So I told the guy when I got up.
Shoveler. Yep.
Yeah, I said, he said, what are you turning in? I was like, man, this is a Brazilian hooded magander. You know, I tried to make it sound exotic as I could, you know. But we were there and we turned in. We usually turn in buffalo is what we turn in. But guy come up and said, man, I want you to try exotic. I was like, what is it? He said, mountain lion.
That was a bad
tastes
cut.
like you imagine it would.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tough? Was it tough?
it was chewy. It was a weird texture. And everybody says all this crazy stuff tastes like chicken. I ain't never had no chicken taste like that. Like it was a little musky. Like I'm pretty sure this was a tomcat. Is what it was. I mean, it was not my favorite. But I've had other people say it was great. But I'm not going to eat an animal that eats meat. I don't know.
Yeah, Mike Powell tried to sell me on the bobcat too, and I'm
not buying.
I'm with you.
I would try. I mean,
I'll
worst
try.
case you can do is spit it out.
I'll try it, but I'm not gonna actively like.
That's like I've had shark before, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's so
Yeah.
good." And it was.
It's fine. It was okay for me.
That we had was like fishy. I couldn't.
Yeah, I
couldn't
had
do it.
sardines that was
Yeah.
less fishy than that. I mean, it was pretty strong. Now again, it could have been the cook, but
Have you ever eaten snake?
I've tried rattlesnake
I've
before.
tried snake before. It was
The
tougher
texture
to
was
eat.
different. Yeah,
It was
texture definitely different.
It was a lot of work
Yeah.
for just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll eat most about anything. But a feline is not on my list.
If it purrs, it don't sound that good.
No,
huh?
it don't sound good.
There's so many better options.
It
Why?
is.
Why? Just
I mean, I guess people say that. I mean,
I kind of go back to chitlins. There's a whole lot more on a
well, I was thinking
pig.
about mountain oysters. I mean,
They are good.
they
now.
are delicious. But who was the first guy who said, "Let me eat the nuts off this cow"?
Yeah.
Like he
Yeah.
was not thinking right.
Let's go for this.
But well, Rob, you got any good recipes? Cooked anything good or?
no, I mean nothing too fancy. I know we had some deer roll-ups this weekend at camp that I don't know if it was exhaustion and hunger, but they tasted pretty good to me. So
We're gonna try, and I've read we've seen a couple of recipes on it. I have physically not cooked it, but we on Malcolm's deer, we took off I guess it's considered like the outer skirt. I guess what they would call that cut on a whitetail, and we cut it off and it's paper thin. It looks like you could pretty much patch a tire with it. It looks pretty tough, but we're gonna kind of roll it out and roll it up in a pinwheel with mushrooms and onions and kind of braise it down and.
Better pre-tenderize that one.
Yeah, we might have to do a little bit with that one, but we're going to try to do some different cuts. We first ventured out into deer heart last year, and I was very pleased with that. It was good, and we're going to do some stuff with the neck roast. I'm trying to find. I know what it looks like, and I know where to find it, but it's like one of the things. It's not like a cow, but I want to find the brisket off a deer.
yeah,
Like what's
Okay.
considered the brisket.
Right.
You know, I know it's not going to look like a brisket off a cow, but to me, like. It still ought to be a really good cut if you braise it and render it down. I guess it'd be part of the neck roast, or I really don't.
blow it. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be right there with it somewhere. But definitely want to give that a try and just, like I say, capitalize on that animal. Get all you can off of it. You know, I'm not finna eat brains. I'm not finna eat tongue. But anything else, I pretty much try on a deer.
I tried to get David on board with that down there this weekend on one of them deer about trying that deer tongue, but he didn't go for it.
I've tried deer tongue. It's about like chewing a balloon full of sand. Yeah, it was. Again, why? There's so many other good cuts.
But we, I guess probably the best thing we've cooked this year. We done, and this is cheating. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you it's cheating. We ground the first doe I killed this year. We grounded everything up but the back straps, and I had some Australian Wagyu trimmings off briskets, and we mixed in with it. I don't know. That was one of
That
the
was
top
good.
burgers,
Yeah, that's a good
period. Not
burger.
just a
Man.
deer burger, but it was excellent. But you put that much fat in anything,
Yeah.
it's got to be good.
Yeah.
Well, y'all got any questions? Anything y'all want to speak of before we wrap this up?
No, I will just put a little plug in. If anybody has any questions or comments or anything about the Arkabutla Lake Physically Challenged Deer Hunt, just reach out to me. You can call me at my office number. That's 662-301-4565. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about it.
Yeah, definitely. If you're listening and want to get involved, do it. You won't regret it. And it's something that's definitely need to put it on your list for sure.
And pretty much everything is donation ran. There's not like
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 100% donation, 100% volunteer. and just folks working out of the goodness of their heart to make this happen. So
You can find the Arkabutla Lake Physically Handicapped Hunt Association. They have a web page there on Facebook.
yeah.
And of course, if you've got anything, you can also ask us on the Arkabutla Lake website or Arkabutla Lake Facebook page as well.
Well, good deal. Well, man, we appreciate y'all coming in. Y'all definitely done y'all's job as far as filling in. Y'all may have done better than Malcolm and Mikey, but we appreciate y'all listening. Y'all can check us out on all the podcast platforms. Of course, we got TikTok, YouTube. We're steadily trying to get new content out there for y'all. And y'all make sure to check out the Buck Junkie website. We got the beanies on there. We got the hoodies. Should be getting the hats in pretty quick, and just keep an eye out because we're going to constantly get more apparel, more stuff out there for y'all. Y'all got any questions, shoot us a message, and we'll see y'all next time.